Hi there. I want to talk about the dialogue on the channel The Meaning Code, and I didn't get a chance to see it until yesterday. It's a really great dialogue between Mary Kohan and Karen. I don't know her last name. It's Karen's channel, and Karen brought up the topic. It was on. They were discussing how the quantum understanding quantum physics means that you participate in the creation of the world, and that's what quantum physics is kind of implying happens. But what's really interesting about that, depicting it that way, is that actually is a reflection of all these patterns we're talking about of reality. So let's talk about relevance realization, where and the metaphysics of quality, where it's a spontaneous stimulus of quality or relevance, and that becomes conscious, and from that consciousness we create patterns that become stable, let's just say. So you are creating from a spontaneous something, quality, you're creating the world, the same way that that quantum physics kind of implies. And this also reflects the pattern of the Logos made flesh, of Genesis. God created the world out of nothing, out of the universe. And also the Tao Te Ching, how from the darkness emerges the 10,000 things, emerges reality. So that pattern, I think, is the new way that we're trying to actually make sense of all this fragmentation, which is, of course, the outcome of hundreds of years of the analytical knife. And which is why, I guess, this is a way of saying that this needs to be the new way of looking at things, because now we have all these fragments, and how are we going to make sense of them? And remember that Pirsig said that subject-object metaphysics leaves out a lot of stuff. For example, it leaves out free will and determinism. It doesn't resolve that argument. And so people debate endlessly, is there free will or determinism? In metaphysics of quality, there's both. The deterministic aspect is the spontaneous, unconscious, pre-intellectual stimulus of quality, but how you use that is where your will comes in. So I think that pattern in itself is emerging. In our own ways, we're describing this in this corner, and I called it a little corner of the internet. It's not so little, so I shouldn't say that. I didn't mean that to diminish it at all, because it's not a little corner. It's a growing corner. It's an important area of YouTube, in my opinion, because we are trying to make sense of something that the old way of thinking, the subject-object metaphysics, is no longer capable of keeping up with, let's just say. Okay, the second thing I want to talk about is Jonathan Pajot just put on a talk he gave at an icon carving workshop. And this also reflects something of the fragmentary outcome, the fragmentary byproduct of the analytical knife. And we try to piece these together in a meaningful way. And how do we piece them together? We piece them together along the lines of the eternal pattern, the eternal patterns. And that, the hierarchy, the center, the eternal patterns that Jonathan and his brother have discussed is how we put those fragments together, and the result are things like the Church of Harry Potter. We want to participate again in the sacred, and this is how we're doing it with these fragments left over from, the analytical knife, and one thing that was cut apart in that process was, of course, a participation in creation with God. So I think that's what's happening. And the last thing I want to say is that that also describes what John Vervaeke was saying about within social media. There is a world, which in the virtual world, you have this fragmentary information, this digital information, these sort of, let's just say, analogs that are pieced together along the three orders of meaning, the normative, narrative, and nomological orders. Oh, one last thing I forgot to say is during the dialogue between Mary and Karen, Karen used the word synonymous or synonyms, these ways of understanding reality, the quantum, quality, relevance, realization, logos becoming flesh, the emergence of the 10,000 things from Tao. These are synonyms. So this is the synonym we're using in this corner. And I hope that made sense, and I'll see you tomorrow.